Hey, you. Last episode, I told you that scholarship is good. Scholarship for a PhD student is the real deal. However, scholarship is just a foundation and not the whole house. So today, we build on the rest of it. I'm sorry this video is coming later than you'd have expected. Because the real question is not whether the stipend is enough or not. For most of us in the big cities like Auckland, genuinely, it's not enough on its own. The stipend is not enough on its own. So if you're coming in as a scholarship question, the real question will be, okay, what do you actually do to close that gap realistically, even if you're self-funded? And doing this without sabotaging the PhD, you're working so hard to finish and you've worked so hard to get into. I'm going to walk you through that exactly. I'm going to walk you through the visa rules that most people get wrong and the work that fits a PhD schedule and the one income stream that most doctoral students completely overlook, sitting right under their own expertise. Thank you so much for your support. I see the views, I see the engagement. I really appreciate this. Thank you. So, welcome back to Rhoda 360. I am Rhoda, and this is another episode in our PhD Truth series. So today, the beautiful Saturday morning, and we're talking about money, specifically how to earn more money while doing a PhD in New Zealand without losing that thing that matters most to you. That's without losing your research progress and your well-being alongside it. So let's start with a piece of information that surprises almost everyone when I mention it. And before that, a disclaimer, I'm not an immigration consultant. I don't give jobs. I don't give immigration advice. I'm not an immigration lawyer. So everything I'm saying today is from my own research and discussions with people who are going through it too. So yes, so if you're an international student in New Zealand on a general student visa, maybe doing a standard degree like undergraduate or a thought master's, you are likely going to maybe work under a 25-hour per week limit during the term. That cap increased from 20 to 25 hours per week, I think sometime around late 2025. You can check the immigration website for that. And that itself was a meaningful improvement to be able to work up to 25 hours per week. But here's what nobody actually tell some prospective doctoral students, and is that if you are enrolled in a doctoral degree or a research master's program at a New Zealand tertiary institution, there is no limit on the hours you are permitted to work, especially if you're self-funded. Because if you're on scholarship, your scholarship body may put a cap to your working hours. But if you're self-funded, no 20-hour cap, no 25-hour cap, none. But there's one condition worth understanding properly. If you choose to work full-time, you are expected to also continue to study full-time. If you want to pursue your studies, maybe specifically to work full-time, your university or your education provider has to formally agree to that suspension and notify Immigration New Zealand. So if you're here on a study visa, whether doctoral or master's, you have to be a full-time student. So practically, you have far more flexibility than a typical international student. That's a genuine system or structural advantage of doing PhD in New Zealand. And most times it's usually not marketed to prospective students clearly. And I think most of us need to be saying it out loudly. Then one sensible caution, and I say this as someone living in it, is not just because there's a legal limit doesn't mean there's no practical limit. A full-time PhD on its own is a demanding undertaking. and your university or your supervisor or your supervisory team would like rightly, expect you to put the PhD or your research as a priority. And the freedom is real. However, the responsibility that comes with it is also real. You understand? So I see a lot of people say, yeah, I'll just go and just drop the study for 1 year before I come back. No, it's not like that. You are expected to be responsible to your research. Now, knowing you can work more hours doesn't mean every type of work is a good fit for you. A PhD schedule is unusual. It's not like a normal 9 to 5. Sometimes it's deep, it's unpredictable. There are focus blocks you have to, be responsible to. It's a mix of periods of reality stroke flexibility. And as much as you're allowed, you need to be careful. So one of the roles that you can take is tutoring and teaching assistant within your own university. And in my view, they are the single best fit for most doctoral students. The pay is reasonable. The hours are usually predictable, and the timetable is in advance. So you can actually schedule your own work around it. And it actively builds your CV in an academic direction rather than pulling them away from it. Your marking, there'll be tutorials, lab demonstrations, all these keep you inside the academic ecosystem rather than constantly switching mental gears between two completely different worlds. For instance, cleaning outside and then coming back to, do some qualitative analysis. Secondly, research assistant work, ideally on a project that is very close to your field, is one of the best options. You are paid to think about research, sometimes even research that informs your own thinking, depending on your project. Then the skill transfers directly to your own work, to your own research, if you get what I mean. Then the third one, like for those of us in clinical services, if you have your clinical license already, and I'll speak to this directly, I don't have my clinical license already. However, if you do, then locum and casual clinical work can be genuinely valuable. If you don't, you could look for maybe associate or assistant clinical services kind of jobs, and probably you will get. If you have your pharmacy registration, it means the skill you get, working in those locum jobs will add to your CV. It's well compensated, not just for the money. The hours worked and everything genuinely adds to your CV and your name when you're done with your PhD. However, what I'll be more cautious about is, and I say it gently, is work that is high hours, low flexibility, and completely disconnected from your academic or professional world. Those work I don't subscribe to it. They may be available, which are very much available, like hospitality, retail work, warehouse work. Plenty students do it, and they do it successfully. And there's no shame whatsoever in it if it's what's available or what works for your life. But if you have a choice, right? If you have a choice, work that is flexible around your supervision, your supervisor meeting, being moved at a short notice, or a data collection week that runs long. Such work costs you far less in stress than work that is a fixed roster that cannot be bent. You have to work 9 to 5 or a specific number of hours. Such work will cost you more stress. Then another thing that most of us overlook is, and this is really underused in this space, right, is that the concept of building your own platform, using your expertise as an income stream. I'll probably bring someone that have done this on this podcast to share more. But here's the thing. You are, by definition, becoming one of the more almost knowledgeable person in the world. on a specific topic, in a specific niche, right? That expertise has value outside of the four walls of your thesis. But most doctoral students never package it as anything beyond the dissertation itself. This is exactly why I actually started Roda 360. It's not instead of my research. It's not me running away from my research. I'm building it alongside it. Every episode I make, every piece of content that I build is not a distraction from my PhD. You know, in a strange way, it's actually building or strengthening the same skills that I'm gaining from my PhD. That includes communication skills, communicating complex ideas clearly, building an audience that trusts your perspective, translating expertise into something usable for people outside your specific bubble, for people outside of your academic world. I'm not saying every doctoral student needs to build a podcast or start a YouTube channel. No, I'm saying that think about what you know that other people will pay for, either right now, before you finish, or in the future. Tutoring outside the university in your specialist area, one, freelancing, editing in your field, consulting, even informally, for organizations who need exactly the niche knowledge you're acquiring. It's not just to put money in your pocket immediately, but to build a CV that you can use in the future. A newsletter, content like this, very important. You know, the traditional side hustle advice treats your time as a generic resource, right? To sell a generic thing that you can just sell by the hour. I'll push you to think differently today. Once that income stream that compounds gets more valuable the longer you do it, you know, rather than trading hours for dollars indefinitely. Once that thing, it's like that long-term thing that you can do. The more you do it, the more valuable it becomes for you and for everything about you. Think about it. Sit with it and think about it entirely. Those are the kind of skills, the kind of hustles you should begin to build now. Now, you need to protect your PhD while you're doing all this. I want to be honest about the tension here. And it's not okay to just gloss over it and not honestly discuss how to protect it. Because more income flexibility is a genuine advantage, right? It is genuinely easy to let work quietly expand to fill that available time that your visa allows, especially when money is tight, especially when we're coming from developing countries. And the work is right there. The work is right there. You will be pulled to be there, to go there. But there's a few principles that I've tried to hold on to over the years. One, treat your research hours as non-negotiable. It's the scheduled time. Nothing comes between you and this time. Not the leftover time after work. If work expands to fill every available hour, the PhD becomes the side project, and that's leading you backwards. Secondly, reassess every semester, not just once. What worked for your income and time balance in year one of your PhD may not work in the data collection or writing up phase. Build in regular check-ins with yourself. Am I able to do tutoring this time? Am I able to do something outside of my university next time? You know, things like that. Thirdly, talk to your supervisor honestly. You know, honestly come with your financial reality, especially if it's going to be affecting your timeline. I know that conversation actually feels vulnerable, yeah, but supervisors who have been doing this for years have seen this exact situation many times before. You won't be the first, except if you are their first PhD student, and you certainly not be the last. And such supervisors will understand your full context and how they can advocate for you. For instance, for advocating for extensions, adjusting expectations for you, you know, being aware of whatever you're managing. Then watch for the warning signs of overextension, not just for your PhD. And it's not just tiredness, missing the actual research quality, missing deadlines, all things becoming a pattern, your health quietly deteriorating. That's one moment to scale back, on the work and not push through. We'll talk about health and well-being specifically later in the series because it connects directly to everything, this episode has just discussed. Yeah. So work, income while doing PhD in New Zealand, either as a scholarship or not, or you're self-funding. The visa flexibility is real and sometimes is genuinely unappreciated, right? The right type of work matters more than the hours alone. You also consider a lot of things. If you have children, if you have children, if you're pregnant, you're starting a family, you put all those into consideration. I want to know, are you working alongside your PhD right now? Or are you planning to? What's working for you? What is not? You can just tell us in the comment section because that kind of genuine information will be useful for anyone else that is watching or listening to this episode. And if this has helped you, send it to fellow doctoral students who is trying to make their money numbers work. Subscribe because next in this series, we're talking about accommodation, where to actually live in New Zealand as a doctoral student, and whether you are solo or doing this with a family in it. So, this episode, when I was talking about the jobs, I forgot to actually mention people that were doing this with family and their own situation is a little bit unique. My name is Rhoda. This is Rhoda 360. It's 360 degrees of inspiration, insight, and impact. Take care of yourselves and each other. Bye.